We are into a game of Hearthstone. Let's go with that. It could be game 3. It could be game 1. But it is DrHippi with a silly smile on his face versus Pavel, showing off his trophies as always. And we got the priest versus the rogue. The priest, one of the classes I didn't get to there, but with Raza in hand, we can pretty much say already that it's going to be Kazakus, Raza, Anduin control priest for Pavel.
Blessings to you.
These two players know each other, of course, incredibly well. Not just from the World Championships, they just know a lot about each other. Okay, Shapu the Collector. Again, the main question here, now we know it's almost certainly Miracle, is will there or will there not be a Valeera the Hollow in the deck? Casey believes that the Lich King is just better than Valeera, and I'm not going to argue with Casey because he will hurt me and he's good at Rogue. But I do think that Valeera has a lot of merit in Rogue. Keeping coins, going Valeera, coin, then Shadow coin if you like, then Edwin. Those sort of plays are possible and you can get some pretty good value out even the turn you play. I'm on a 10-minute delay, guys, but I am willing to talk to chat. It is Conquest, best of 5 with a ban. They are in groups of 8, which didn't come up on the screen this time around, but they will later. And the top 4 from each group will go through to the knockout stages in 7 days' time. We will be showing every single match here over the next 6 days, which means there's going to be a lot of Hearthstone. A lot of opportunities for casters to say silly things, so bear with me. Pavel going for the Soul Priest option. Nicely just occupying the board. Basically just doing nothing but threatening at the moment. Hippie drawing his card, find out what he gets. Mass Dispel. I believe that is from the corner that we can see. This is where the good rogue players are separated from the bad rogue players. A million different ways to get rid of this. Which one do you want to use? If any. Might as well protect your Shaku though. Choosing this way to get through. Actually looking after his Blood Mage. Pavel sending out plenty of emotes to remind everybody who the world champion is.
Let me change your mind.
Again, these players will have to keep these decks throughout the next 6 days. And so, as the week goes by, they're going to have to keep in mind the fact that what they're doing in this tournament is slightly out of date, or will be later in the week, compared to what they may be doing for preparation for other tournaments, maybe ladder, etc.
So many.
I got the best deals.
New turn coming in then from Hippie. Let's see where he is at the end of this turn. 4/4s, the old meme. Difficult to remove for the priest. So Auctioneer does have a chance of sticking on board.
No.
Coining first. No, that allows him to hallucination. Had he prepped first, he'd have to hallucinate for 1, so that worked out well for him. There is Valeera the Hollow. So DrHippi at least is playing Valeera. Let's see what sort of power she can add in a couple of turns' time. Unruffled gets through his turn, keeps the board clear and protects that Auctioneer. Okay, the Raza set up on the side of Pavel. This means that now, if he draws Anduin, he'll be able to start shooting the hell out of things. Hero Power will refresh for 0 each time he plays a card, but he's got to get Anduin first. He's got some ways of getting there. So many versions of this deck. The Prophet Velen here. Pretty insane way to just finish games off.
I wonder.
Means that the counter, the timer, whatever you want to call it, is on here. The clock, I guess you would call it. DrHippi does need to be the aggressor. course, one of the downsides here for Pavel should be that the chance of having Shadow Word Death in his hand are pretty low. Be interested to see if that means that DrHippi commits heavily. But this is fine because last turn Pavel couldn't use 6 mana to deal with Auctioneer. So if this gets Shadow Word Death, this Edwin, then how is Pavel going to deal with it with 4 mana? If he wants to blow everything up for 5 damage with the potion, then the Edwin will live. So this gives Pavel a bunch of choice that he doesn't like, even if he has those cards in hand. And as we can see, actually, his hand is somewhat clunkier than that. Plenty more where that came from as well, now that the giants are down to just the 2. Eternal Servitude. Pretty much whiffs. Challenging a rogue to have, what, 10 damage at this point. It's a challenge the rogue will often take you up on. Another option here for DrHippi to think about is that next turn he might be able to play Valera and double a giant. But against that is the fact he can just have a giant on the board. As I keep my eyes out for lethals appearing, because that Eviscerate is going to put it awfully close. The way that the cards are copied when you play your Valera means that they are instantly available. If you do play a Naught drop, you will get another copy of it and play another Naught drop. So next turn he can play Valera into double giant. Assuming that the giant does cost 0, which is what he's setting up now. And all the time making sure he's putting down enough threats on the board to... It's an interesting choice. I think Mind Control is like a safety net here. Quite like to see him take that, yeah. Does play the giant. Okay. You saw the Shadow Word Death go on the Edwin last turn. So that doesn't make this a very awkward clear. Also means the giant, as we can see, will go through the Primordial Drake. And DrHippi has so much stuff that maybe Valera is just not going to be required. Well, that's a pretty awful card right now. Lucky Doe Buccaneer. Pavel just drawing cards to try and find some way out. Nope. There is no way out. And the world champion is 1-0 down with Kozaka's Priest. Not getting a terrible start there. The Rogue just finding the way. With keeping the Auctioneer on the turn for 3 turns. Leaves DrHippi with his Druid and his Hunter. Pavel still with the same lineup he started. Where did I get to? I got to the Priest, we did the Shaman, we did the Paladin, we did the Druid. Well, there we go. We'll have to wait and see what he queues. Alright, let me have a quick look for the groups for you. They're here somewhere. I know they are. But don't have them handy for a moment. I'll sort that out briefly between the next rounds. Okay, so as we just go into game number 2, this group is DrHippi and Pavel. As you can see, there is Show, Inner, Lebed. I hate this guy's name, but I love the guy. Kartasheshka. Farm for Fame, who is the qualifier, but he's not only won this qualifier, but he recently won an Open Cup over the weekend as well. And Juristis, that is one heck of a Group B that we've got to look forward to over the next few days. Group A, Prive, Neyman, Stanudachi, Neiria, Nick Chipper, Num, Hammer HS, who's the qualifier in that group, and a late addition, because Dog couldn't make it, is Jackie Chan. We've let Jackie Chan loose in a tournament at the start of a meta, boys and girls. Be interesting to see what he does. Could be anything, and it will be anything. Right, so Pavel playing... The deck of choice does seem to have largely been this mid-range Taunt Druid. We've seen one Jade from Nevaeh, but the Taunt Druid seems to be winning the battle of the choices right now. Hunter has been surprisingly popular, I think. It is punishing if people bring a lot of control decks. I thought we might see more pirates than we have so far for the same reason. But I like this Hunter deck, the way it has 2 routes to victory. I've been on about it a lot. Are you going to actually trade in here? Can't afford to let that thing grow, so just get rid of it while he can. Leaves with 6 attack on the board, so he's okay for next turn. Pavel down to the awkward looking choice. He did get to make a 3/7, I guess.
The frozen wind guide me.
So Animal Companion. Huffer allows him to trade in, as does Leok. And Misha's not that bad. We can see it's not that good either because of the options available to Pavel next turn.
I wonder.
And how much DrHippi has managed to divine about Pavel's hand. Obviously Mark of the Lotus is a staple in this deck. I feel like you fancy your chances here if they haven't got living mana, if you can clear this board up. So you play the Companion, clear it up 2 times out of 3. This is the best one because it clears everything. And now just hope they don't have living mana. And if they do, you have to draw your hounds. Yeah. DrHippi's face says more than I probably should. Just going to be smash in the face. Obviously, Rexar would have dealt with it if there wasn't the Mark of the Lotus as well. And what do you even do here as DrHippi? Get your 5 armor from the Rexar, protects you a little bit. This sets up a board where she's scared of on 3. Savage Roar. But really, seems like if you've got Savage Roar, you're going to lose this game at some point anyway. Turns out that Druid is good. Who knew? The old strategy, make the big taunt, protect your minions. DrHippi staring down the barrel, going to 1-1, almost certainly. How do you even get out of this? Is there a way? I guess Huffer into trade, into taunt your Huffer with the Razor Maul. Does that even work? Don't know what he picked with the first one. If it was cheap enough, he can play the Staggered on. I don't think it's enough though. Maybe it is. There's an effective 14 health. We've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 plus the Wrath. You can kill it exactly, so that is going to be lethal. He gives it up. You can actually got lethal on board. Don't even know why I'm counting the Wrath. Goes to 1-1. The Druid is through for Pavel. DrHippi still got his Hunter. So Pavel's down to the Priest that we've already seen. The Shaman is banned, which means that he only has the Priest and the Paladin. Paladins for the large part have been Finger so far today. may or may not have heard there in the
My hammer
background
burns with holy fire.
to be the hunter. It's not, it's going to be the paladin. I can't even hear anymore. Pavel with the paladin. DrHippi with the pirate warrior. This makes me happy. This is a deck I thought we would see a lot of today to punish the likely mid-range plethora of decks. Interesting hand for Pavel. I think you have to keep this curve because it is a curve. And I think you have to get your one drop down.
But we fight.
The danger of this is things can go wrong if your opponent plays like a first mate, gets rid of it, and then you're constantly on the back foot, you never get your buffs off. But as it is, Pavel in a good spot here. No turn one play for Hippie. Pavel's going to get into this one. And now his Hydrologist is protected. The Rockpool Hunter, the giant Rockpool Hunter, will also get good work done next turn. The Seekers will get work done as well. It's where the Right to Protect is so good. Like, normally it'd be under massive threat here from this Patches when it comes into play. But no problem here. Maybe he's going to have to play the Frothing first. It's all kind of grim. Frothing first just gets lose, right? That's why he has to go with this. He loses to Rockpool Hunter straight away. Okay, decision time for Pavel. So many options here as to how to build as big a board as possible. Make sure he keeps these pirates away. If you play the Rockpool Hunter, do you just trade into Patches? Do you trade into the... I mean, you just clear is the obvious play. Nothing too clear. If you trade into the Patches and take the value play, yeah, this. And then you drop the Noble Sacrifice. You've got the Captain under control. And then next turn, you can either Hydrologist Rockpool or you can Wicker Flame, as you can see for yourselves, and start to shore up the game. Having a wide board against pirates that just can't deal with wide boards is often so good. And yeah, Pavel taking that value there. DrHippi going through all the options in his mind. Doesn't want it to come back as a 1-1 Divine Shield, so he doesn't attack in. Blessing of Kings. I mean, there's a part of me that just thinks that's GG. Blessing of Kings, kill off the Frothing. Trading your Hydrologist, you've got a, what, a 5-3 and a 2-3 against a pirate deck with nothing on the board. That's exactly what's going to happen. And his next turn is just disgusting as well. Looking really good here for the world champion. You only got to hear it for a few more months, guys. And I'll be calling somebody else world champion and annoying you with that instead. This has just worked out all so well for Pavel this game. Obviously, DrHippi didn't have much in his opening hand. Sometimes those captain hands can work for you, but with no weapon, you really do struggle as the pilots. You get those no weapon draws, something like 1 in 7, 1 in 8 games, I seem to remember. Like no weapon at all in the first 1 or 2 turns. And those games you very rarely win. When you've got a low curve to go with it, no curve, sorry, to go with it, you're in an even worse spot. Pavel spoiled for choice here. Still on 30 health against pirates. What can DrHippi even do? And that's a deathwing. It's worth noting. Again, they are keeping the same decks for the entire week. Just checking the chat. Jackie is replacing a dog. Yeah, they have to keep these decks for the entire week, so if you don't like your lineup, you're stuck with it. And DrHippi goes 2-1 down. Both these players' first games. That may seem obvious as it's the first day, but it's not quite as obvious as it sounds because some players will be playing twice today. DrHippi will in fact be playing Juristis later in the day. Pavel takes that 2-1 lead. Just got to find a win with the Kazakh's Priest. Going to take on the Hunter, which is going to be intriguing because the Hunter gets so much value. And obviously the Pirates, which have every chance of just mowing the Priest down. It's not over yet.
Alone give me strength.
Pavel, full mulligan. That's exactly what Hippie needs to see right now. Kazakh's Priest on full mulligan. You're in the hands of the one of gods. DrHippi trying to plan his curve. So you want to keep the Houndmaster, you want to keep the Razormaw, you want to keep the weapon, but then you're keeping 2, 3, and 4. With a coin in your hand, that's not really where you want to be at. So Hippie trying to plan out, first of all, play to his draw to his outs, and secondly, make sure he doesn't mess it up if he does whiff. You don't have particularly high numbers of early game in this.
Is someone injured?
And I feel that we just keep the lot. So he's going to play possibly just turn 2 Razormaw. If it goes wrong, if the Razormaw is dealt with, then he will be able to coin out the Wolves. If the Razormaw is not dealt with, he can coin out the Houndmaster. And all the time he has the other option, which he may have to consider now and waste mana next turn, of straight up just playing the Eagle Horn Bow and starting to mess things about. So, keeping all 4 cards working out well for him. Pavel, with one of everything in his deck, plays a 1, a 2, and a 3. Does everyone miss Reno Jackson? Does everyone miss it? You won't have to miss it for long. DrHippi is playing Freezing Trap, so this could well be the Cloaked Huntress build of this deck, which is particularly bizarre, and I've seen it way more than I thought I would, where you just play a very small number of secrets, as well as you include the N'Zoth package. You don't necessarily play the N'Zoth, you just play the Death Rattle package. You still play Rexar, and basically just everything's a giant pain for your opponent.
I wonder.
I'm sure the deck lists will be available at some point, but at the moment they are still concealed from the players, so we won't have those probably until after the tournament. I don't know what the official word is on that, but the decks will be available in the future. But a lot of these players are playing 2 or 3 times a day, and so if you watch the stream or fast forward through the VODs or whatever you want to do to get those deck lists, I'm sure you can work it out for yourselves. Sarcasm mode over. I know people do prefer to have those decks in their hands. So no imminent danger here for DrHippi of dying, but the timer is on to some degree because when Anduin comes to play, all your minions start to die rather rapidly. Pavel will have a decent idea that at least one of those cards is Houndmaster, I feel. Given that Hippie kept in his opening hand. Don't know if you'll necessarily know the Wolf. But that is now a giveaway that the other card is the Houndmaster for me. Why would you ever keep Infested Wolf in your opening hand as a full keep unless the other card's Houndmaster? Not the easiest read to make in the world. I'm not saying I could do it on ladder without the cards in front of me, but World Champion probably has a decent shot at that. So Pavel has pretty much everything he could need here in terms of not dying anytime soon. the problem he's facing, is how to play this corpse widow. That's what's trying to work out what the problem was there. I think you want to keep Priest of Feast as long as possible. You've taken no damage, so there seems to be no reason to dump it onto the board. Very considered game this. They played pretty fast so far, to be fair, these two. But this game is causing them a lot of headaches. The strategy, I guess, not completely decided yet for how this matchup pans out. Like, normally if you were the hunter against a priest, you just stall it out, get your exile, get a bunch of stuff, and win with your bunch of stuff. But the way that Kazaka's priest plays out, it can kill you pretty quickly. And DrHippi already down to 18. Maybe just trying to work out how much time he actually does have here. Alright. Trying to ensure that something is going to survive into the future here. One damage to everything would hurt. 2 damage to everything will hurt. Multiple ways of setting that up for Pavel, but he may also feel that he doesn't need to. Maybe tempted just to drop the Northshire. Get some healing in, draw another card. The Nova has to be gigantically tempting, though. You'll still have your 4-6 against your opponent's 4-4. You probably never get a better Nova than this one either. As the game goes on, your Nova's going to deteriorate in strength, as the Hunter's likely to get bigger and bigger minions. So maybe this is the only time you really get a use out of your Holy Nova. And I'm glad that I didn't jump when he pressed the Northshire Cleric and decided to second guess myself, because that's where we went. Okay, so DrHippi's managed to get into a position where he can finally use this Houndmaster. Even though it puts a high attack minion on the board, which means the priest can deal with it a little more easily, oddly enough. It does mean that he has the 4-3 Houndmaster in play, and doing the Razor first to make sure he knows what he's up against. Divine Shield or Wind Fury. Wind Fury is just not near enough winning. This is what I keep on about with these 2 win conditions for this Hunter deck. You're not going to beat them down, but you can still win through value. Plenty more value to come from DrHippi. And from nowhere, he's produced a 13 attack board.
Let the pain speak to me.
Pavel holding on to that Feast of the Feast. And this will just buy him some time this turn. Go into the Twilight Drake turn, the Primordial Drake turn, which will buy him some more time. Playing things that he can actually get onto the table. Not really expensive cards like the Curator. I'd rather have the 6 health on a 2 attack shell just for now. Again, it is a round-robin league, 7 matches to be played, so you're looking at 4 wins. 5 will almost certainly get you through. There are maths that say you don't always. But if you get 4, you'll be feeling hard done to if you don't finish in the top half, obviously. Going more than 50%, you'd expect to finish in the top 50%. Numbers don't always do what you think they do. They'd be happy to go all in on the same minion.
Quickly.
Will he proc the shield? I think he might trade in with a Houndmaster here. Yeah, getting that damage done. Turning it over and saying, okay, Pavel, I've let you have control of the early game. I'm just going to hit you now and set up lethal for next turn. Or can I Circle. Pavel can proc the shield with the Acolyte, play Arcanized Soul Priest, play Circle, and then ping with his hero power and clear the entire board. Only downside for him is that he won't be able to heal against a hunter until the Arcanite is dead. But I don't think he really cares at this point. He's cleared up this really messy looking board. How much damage is this though? Can't play the 5 right now. Can play the Explosive Trap for now. This means that the weapon will eventually get another tick if needed. Eternal Servitude. One of the options here. Obviously the Priest of the Feast not an option at the moment. If Pavel attacks with the Soul Priest, then he can play Priest of the Feast, Eternal Servitude. If that is an Explosive Trap, but he buffs up the weapon.
Is someone injured?
And seeing that it could be Explosive Trap, playing it this way so he can get the heal onto the North Side Cleric. Give himself some more card, and of course the 2/6 taunt is just going to stodge up the board nicely. And Pavel pretty safe. He's got Priest of the Feast that he's kept the entire game to start healing back up with. And without the Rexar, looking like DrHippi's in a world of trouble here. What's his game plan? How does he win this? The hero powers cancel for the lazy way of doing things. So Hippie has to find 12 raw damage. He's got 5 from that kill command, but that may have to be used in taking down this Shell Razor. There he goes then. Getting what damage he can in right now. Feast of the Feast has Eternal Servitude to give 3 healing. Spirit Lash. Not necessarily useful right now. Amazing how such a small board can have so many options here.
What is
May just be tempted to play the Primordial Drake. He knows that there's no cards in Hippie's hand. He's on 9. He can take 7 next turn from a second kill command, even if there's a beast on the table, which I think he's about to take care of. Yeah. And yeah, he's not dying anytime soon, so why panic? That should speed things along a little bit. Now Pavel has to make sure he stops relaxing, just gets this over with. Should be easy enough though. Seems like a good card. Don't even have to play it. Now he is in a position where he can die from 7, so if he plays Lich King, he will have to heal his own face. Just because the second kill command.
Warriors of the frozen wastes.
Yeah, can't die, sets up lethal. Seems good for Pavel if he's going to need a miracle. Which is the only deck he's won with so far. Back in the first game, the miracle. He well plays Pavel. Pavel takes down the first game of the tournament.